Everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Posted Up with Chris Haynes podcast here on Yahoo Sports. We got a lot to talk about, a lot to discuss. We're still in the middle of the free agents. Excuse me. Justice. Can you hold your sneezes, please? Yes, I am. Hey, y'all keep this in there, Brett. Well, excuse me. I apologize for that's my daughter. She's back from college, and she'll be going away back to college at Clark, Atlanta pretty soon. She just sneezed and interrupted my intro. So where I left off at, I said this is the Chris Haynes Posted Up with Chris Haynes podcast here on Yahoo Sports. A lot to talk about. Free agency. We're still in the middle of it. There's still some pretty big names still out there left on the board, but a lot of this process is being held up by Kevin Durant, who requested a trade. I think we talked about this. I got my brother Vincent Goodwill on, my colleague here at Yahoo Sports. Did we talk about this last pod?
We alluded to it.
We alluded to it. So I guess the official trade request happened after our last recording.
It happened after.
Okay.
We were kind of we were trying to couch it a little bit.
Okay. All right. So that's pretty much holding up free agency. Teams are still trying to figure out what the Brooklyn Nets are going to do. Kyrie Irving situation is up in the air as well. Look, so let's get right into it. Let's start with KD because he's the big fish right now. I reported his preferred destination was the Phoenix Suns. Woj added in the Miami Heat. Obviously, KD has 4 years left on his deal. And so the Brooklyn Nets pretty much hold the cards as far as where they think they can get the most value for KD. But Vince, over the last couple of days, there's been a new narrative kind of shaping out of that. The Nets are I'm trying to say the right phrasing. The Nets wouldn't mind. No, it's not wouldn't mind. But the Nets are considering going into next season with KD and Kyrie. I don't know if that's some type of leverage, strategic ploy out there. What do you think? Is that realistic? And what do you think is really going on right now?
I don't think that's realistic at all. I think if it's put out there, it's more or less, you wouldn't say a threat, but they would say it's an option as opposed to taking what they conceive to be a bad deal. But I think let's back up. First off, when you're trading Kevin Durant, there probably is no such thing as a great deal, right? You're giving up one of the three best players, if not, top two, top one, players in the game. So you're not going to feel good about whatever you wind up, getting back. You're not going to feel great about it. So the thought is Kevin Durant is a professional. If we don't find a trade for him, he'll come in and play because Kevin Durant loves playing basketball. He's not going to act the fool like Kyrie Irving, like James Harden, right? But that's not realistic. That's not the way NBA business is done. You know what I mean? When a player says he wants out, the relationship is over, right? We done all been in some bad relationships in our lives. When one person decides the relationship is over, it does not matter what the other party feels like. The relationship is over, and now it has to just run its course, right? So, yeah, of course, Brooklyn would like to say, yeah, we'll hold on to Kevin Durant, but they ain't bringing Kyrie Irving in the training camp. Can you imagine that nonsense and that circus? No. Chris, I'm with you. I think this is just something to sort of smoke out better offers. We know that Phoenix is his top destination. I think that's where he'll probably wind up going because you very rarely see a player being shipped to a place he doesn't want to go. Because if he can do this with 4 years left on his contract, Chris, can he do this with 3 years left on his contract? If he gets traded to New Orleans or insert place here, wouldn't he just say, hey, you know what, get me out of here, just like get me out of Brooklyn? So just to prevent all that from happening, to keep your reputation as a reputable organization intact, and basically to keep your doors open for other superstars if they want to come and play for you in the future, it would behoove Brooklyn to trade him to either Phoenix or Miami and do it in a reasonable, timely fashion. But they don't have to do anything now. They don't have to drag it out to October. But there's, 3 months, Chris, between now and preseason? They could drag this out.
Yeah, I mean, they very well could be, and I wouldn't be surprised if they did. Now, I agree with you. I would be surprised if both of those players were still on the roster come opening night. And this is the this is what you risk by if the Nets are really seriously considering bringing these guys back for the upcoming season. This is what you risk. So, and this is why it rarely happens. You never really see a superstar player request a trade and then they're brought back knowing that they want out. Because the fan base, they read it. They understand that that player still doesn't want to be there. And so what's going to end up happening is ticket sales revenue, that's affected because the team can sell. You know how teams do. The social media, they sell their posters, KD, Kyrie, as the franchise cornerstone players, and everybody really knows they don't want to be there.
Right.
And the Miami Heat. So I throw out the Miami Heat because I was there not too long ago. But when you go to their arena, outside their arena, there's poles. And there's poles about 10 feet from each other. There are poles all around the arena. And on top of the poles, there's flags. And on the flags, there's pictures of the Miami Heat players. You see it all the time. And so most of the time, the players, they're mugging. They're mugging, looking serious. That's the way Miami Heat do it. And so say a player of Jimmy Butler, like Jimmy Butler, say Jimmy Butler wanted out. Then they got that picture up there, flag, Jimmy Butler mugging, right? So it's supposed to look like, I'm aggressive. We're about our business. We're serious. Then all of a sudden, that picture of him mugging looks like, oh, he really wants out of here. You know what I mean? Like,
I hate this place.
I hate this place. You know what I'm saying? It takes on a whole new meaning. And so those scenarios where you bring back a superstar while everybody knows he really doesn't want to be there really doesn't work. We've seen a little bit of it with James Harden in Houston, a little bit of it. And it got too much because not just that, the teammates know you're really not invested. It has an effect in the locker room. So it's not really a scenario. And then we're not just talking one superstar. You're talking Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. And the questions that will be asked on a daily basis will be pertaining to their future.
Especially, Chris, as the media we presume will be allowed more access starting next season. And the last thing that you want is a real life circus. Think about it. The Nets had all this circusness going on, and the media didn't even have real access. Can you imagine the media being in a locker room with Kyrie Irving if he actually shows up to work that day? First off, we got to make sure he shows up to work, Chris. You know what I mean? Make sure he's not truant. You know what I mean? Like, and I do think Kevin Durant is a professional, right? He is. I say do think. No, he is a professional. He shows up to work. He puts the work in. He invests. But he made a decision that whether it was his own doing or, circumstances, he made a decision that, hey, this is too crazy for me. Get me out of here, right? You respect that, right? As an organization, you may not like it, but you respect it. And you also understand that, Chris, this league operates in like 2-year intervals. The league changes and turns over every 2 years. The things that we thought about the NBA 2 years ago, we don't think anymore. It moves so fast now. Remember 2 years ago, we thought Golden State was done. The Lakers was another dynasty in the making. We got all these type of questions about Giannis and Milwaukee, and the world done flipped on its head. 2 years, right? So in the 2 years of you losing Kevin Durant, you can get another free agent of substance if you handle your business properly. And you don't want Kevin Durant doing the James Harden thing where you got DeMarcus Cousins in the locker room ready to throw some furniture around because you acting up on the floor. Not to say that would happen in Brooklyn, but you don't want, like you said, you don't want to run the risk of that. It's not necessary. Now, Chris, I'm going to spin it to you. I've heard varying degrees of what Brooklyn wants. Like some executives have thrown out some craziness, right? They said Brooklyn is asking for too much. They want an all-star player, a starter, plus draft picks. I'd heard from, and I don't know if this is out there, so I'm not trying to break any news per se, but I'd heard that Minnesota, but that Minnesota didn't offer, but that Brooklyn came to Minnesota and said, we want Karl Anthony Towns, we want the Ant-Man, and we want 4 draft picks.
Whew.
Now, Chris, what's the going rate? That's a future superstar in the Ant-Man. That's a good, really good. I'm not as high on Karl Towns as most, but
he's an all-star, Vince.
He's an all-star. Yeah, he's an all-star player. Plus 4 draft picks. Who has that type of capital? What teams have an all-star player, 2 all-star level players, plus draft picks, and being in a destination that would be palatable to Kevin Durant and still have enough to win a championship?
Let me flip your question, Vince. You asked who has that capital. Well, obviously Minnesota has it if Brooklyn are calling them asking about it. But the question should be, is it worth that for Kevin Durant, 34 years old, Ant-Man, who's what? Is he even 21 yet?
Nothing. Might just be turning 20.
Might just be 21. Karl Anthony Towns, what, 25, 26? Like 4 first-round picks? That's an awful lot. Like KD, he's a guy, he's a baller. Right now, we don't see him slowing down, but, all we can go off of is history and time. You know what I'm saying? Like, how many years does KD have at this level? And you're going to give up a player in Ant, who I think is going to be an all-star, for many years. Towns is going to continue to make all-star games as well. That's an awful lot. Like, I don't know if that's that's too much.
I got a question for you, Chris Haynes. Today, I believe, is the 3-year anniversary of Anthony Davis being traded from New Orleans to the Lakers. And what you're saying, the compensation is very similar, right? And I think Kevin Durant is a better player than Anthony Davis. So if you're the Lakers, and the Lakers got 1 championship out of that, they got that bubblicious title, but they got 1 championship out of it. Do you think the Lakers, in hindsight, feel like they gave up too much for Anthony Davis, knowing that they won a championship?
Not at all. Not at all. I mean, but I think the difference as well, AD was 26 when that trade happened? KD is 34. So I think it's totally apples to oranges and that type of comparison. But I get the point. Like, again, KD is still top 3 talent. Some people arguably say he's the best in the league right now. You have to consider it, but that's an awful lot. You're giving up a decade plus of all-star production for a handful, if that, a full handful, if that. That's being gracious. That's a lot to ask.
No, I'm a respectfully, considering I'm looking at your face and then the face of another dude just as ugly behind you. I'm a respectfully disagree here. If you have a chance to win a championship, if you're saying that getting Kevin Durant means that for the next 5 years, we are
4 first-round. I'm not so much hung up on the players. The 4 first-round picks on top of that.
Okay, here's what I'll say about draft picks. And I've thought about this. Because remember, Chris, for a few years, nobody traded draft picks. It was too much cost control, right? Yep. Especially in the age of escalating salaries. But the salaries for first-round picks are tied to the salary cap. Okay. The salary cap exploded this year. It went up, another $10 million unexpectedly. Like, they weren't expecting. We'll come out of a pandemic. You don't expect Lee to have that much revenue. You're going to have a new TV rights deal in 2 years, which means you're going to have another salary cap explosion, which means rookie deals are going to go up even more. So the rookie deals are valuable if it's quote unquote cheaper labor. But if that labor is $12 million a year for a rookie for a first round draft pick, not saying that that's exactly what it is, but that's what it could be. Are you willing to do that?
That's still cheap. That's still considered cheap labor for top first round picks.
Agreed. But I know what Kevin Durant is. I know what he is. This ain't Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce firmly on the back end. This is Kevin Durant still make the argument to be the baddest man walking. Those dudes don't grow on trees that often, right? And if you are like me and you believe that Kevin Durant was a product or a victim or initiator or instigator of fruit from a poisonous tree, how about we move him to a better tree? and we leave the poison behind. How about that, Chris Haynes?
Where's the poison? What's the source of this poison?
I don't know this. I can't say what.
Okay.
I can't say the source of the poison, but I will say, as an organization, you have to have some structure that can handle Kevin Durant. And not Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, but you have to have the structure to be respectable, to be able to tell players no, to have players in a locker room that's respected too, that he can come in and assimilate himself and just hoop, because that's all KD wants to do. He just wants to hoop. Think about it. Phoenix, it's Chris Paul there. It's Monty Williams there. That's structure. In Miami, it's Spo, it's Pat Riley, it's Jimmy Butler. There's structure. All he wants to do is come in and hoop. It's no coincidence to me that these are the two teams that he's highlighted. Teams that I can just come in and hoop and we can compete for championships. That's what I think, or I believe that his priorities are at this point. And if it's 3 or 4 years and I can get 2 chips out of it, in the words of whomever, F them draft picks.
We'll see. We'll see. You could be right. I would say this about Kevin Durant. Since he requested a trade, there's been numerous stars that I've spoken to, numerous stars that have been trying to get in touch with him to pick his brain to see if he would consider other avenues. Just want to get a sense of what he's thinking.
Radio silent.
KD is going dark. He's not talking to anybody, not answering anybody's phone calls, not responding to texts. KD has gone dark. The only time you see him get out into the sunlight is when he responds on Twitter, and he's not saying anything much on there aside from probably going at a fan or something like that. But yeah, he's going dark. So he's I guess he's hoping this process plays out the way he wants to. But yeah, he's pretty much not speaking with anybody right
Chris,
now aside from his inner circle.
Can we clear something up?
Go ahead.
I have a theory.
Uh-oh.
It might be educated.
Hold on.
Might be an educated theory.
Hold on. Kendrick Perkins had a theory yesterday.
Oh Lord.
Are you going? You're not going there, are you, Vince?
Moses Moody, who? Dame did it, Dame Daddy. No, not doing it.
Go ahead, Vince. Go ahead.
Here's I think Kevin Durant is a walking contradiction, right? And I think multiple things can be true. Multiple things can be true. He could have wanted the Brooklyn Nets to offer Kyrie Irving, his friend, a fully guaranteed max contract because that's the cost of doing business in the NBA, and could have looked at the Nets as being an unserious organization because they didn't do it. Now, some people would say that means he wants to play with Kyrie Irving forever. He is eternally tied to him. No, it just means I can want the best for my friend while also meaning this is crazy. Get me out of here. I'm enough of a friend to you that I'm not going to publicly say anything against you, and I'm going to want you to get your money while also saying I don't want to be here anymore because this is too much for me. You know what I mean? That's what I think to be true with KD. It's a contradiction. It says a million different things, but once again, Kevin Durant is a walking contradiction. And I say that with all affection because we are all inconsistent humans. You know what I mean? I'm not bashing him on that. And I think it's okay for him to say, you know what, even though I created or helped create this crazy situation, it's crazy. Get me up out of here.
Okay. So you did hear what Kendrick Perkins theorized yesterday.
Yeah.
You're not too far off, Vince.
No. You're saying that he's trying to use this as leverage to get Kyrie Irving a deal.
Yeah.
And then stay.
Okay.
I'm saying he's saying get me up out of here. Regardless.
Because
I don't like the way that y'all do things.
Okay.
By that I mean this.
Got you.
He played for Oklahoma City and Golden State. Now, Sam Presti, we can say a lot of things about Sam Presti in Oklahoma City, but they're a professional organization, right?
Mm-hmm.
A functional organization. Golden State, we know that they're top-notch. Ownership, front office, coaching staff, everything else. He can decide that those places weren't for him while also believing every organization operated like they were competent. And then you come here and it's like, whoa, this ain't competent. This is crazy. Well, Kevin, you helped create the crazy. Yeah, but it's still crazy. Walking contradiction.
Mark Stein, and I completely didn't see this. Like, I didn't catch this when he reported that the Brooklyn Nets were not bringing back David Vanderpool. Cisco, I totally missed that. So anyways, context, David Vanderpool, very close with KD. He was with KD in Oklahoma City. I spent time with Vanderpool when I was covering the Portland Trailblazers. Vanderpool and Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum, extremely close. David Vanderpool is a player's coach. And I missed that. So that must have happened like a month ago. And I didn't know. Like it hit me yesterday. So does that have any, like, I don't know if that has an element to play, but I think it definitely has to. I know those two relationships. So I don't know, but Vanderpool wasn't the only one. There was two other coaches that were let go as well. I mean, and what does that say about these last few years where they felt like they had to get rid of 3 assistant coaches? Like, what does that say? I don't know what that says.
No. Here's what it says, Chris. It says, in the beginning, we're so very happy to have you here. What do you want? Let's make it so that this is the optimal situation for you, right? What assistant coaches do you want? What head coach do you want? Who else do you want to play with? All of that, right? Then it doesn't work. And now you got to take some of that power back as an organization, which is their want to do, right? They said, hey, we tried it this way. This is madness. We got to take some of the control back because this is not the way. This is not the organization that we built that was attractive to KD and Kyrie, even though I don't know if the organization was attractive as much as it was just Brooklyn being attractive to them. So now that they've taken it back, KD can look around and be like, hey, this is not the organization that I started out with here. So put it like this. Nobody's to blame, but everybody carries fault. Everybody carries responsibility. Everybody.
I get you with that. But why are these 3 coaches taking the fault and the blame, which led to their departure? What did they do that warranted this? What did Steve Nash do to stay?
Is this your Wendy moment? Do you need to pose? Do you need to slow down?
I'm not doing that. All I'm saying is, like, what did they do? What, like, we're talking structure, or we're talking it didn't work? What didn't work?
Are you saying was there conflict with the coach? Are you suggesting that was a possibility?
I have no clue, Vince. All I'm asking is that, like, it's rare that when something doesn't work, you don't let go of assistant coaches.
Saying you fired a coach.
Well, whatever. No, I don't know if it was Steve Nash. I don't know if it was a front office fault. Like, I don't know who is at fault. And, basically, I just want to know why. Why is it 3 assistant coaches that are asked to leave? Why? I'm not saying anybody else deserves to, but why are 3 assistant coaches asked to leave? What did they do? How did they contribute to the structure that we all know is not up to par with Kevin Durant? What do they don't have much power. You know what I mean? Like, they're basically told what to do, and they do it.
They don't have power, but they have influence. Okay. Right? Now, we've heard the stories about Kyrie Irving coming out and conducting his own practices after practice. Oh, can you imagine being Nick Claxton? You just went through a 2-hour practice with Steve Nash running it. You in the locker room, you about to hop in the shower, you putting on your flip-flops, and Kyrie says, you, and you, come back out here. We about to run through this practice. We about to run through a whole nother practice. We ain't talking about the Stay Ready crew. You know what I mean? Everybody knows it's the Stay Ready crew. Stay Ready crew, for those who don't know.
Yeah.
Stay Ready crew, the players who don't play, players who are out of the rotation, guys who are on an inactive list. A lot of times they will run through stuff after practice with assistant coaches who are able-bodied. You know what I mean? With some of the younger assistant coaches who are still, in good enough shape to run through sets and everything else, and to get some extra work in that they're not getting in, through practice, because teams hardly practice anymore. And then you got Kyrie Irving over here talking about, hey, y'all, we about to run through practice again. Hey, y'all, I'm going home. You want to get extra practices in, Kyrie? You know when you could have did that? November. Where all of us took the jab and we were all here every day, and now you want to come in, Johnny come lately, and saying, let's get some extra practices in? No, you get some extra practices in. Can you believe that shit?
You feel pretty passionate about this, Vince.
I'm just saying, this is, once again, if we're talking about a structure that is so counter to how the NBA does things. Like, there's societal norms. Every business has a certain set of norms that are special, right? Mm-hmm. Like if we were bankers and we were leaving at 5 o'clock, we leave at 5 o'clock, right? Or 6 o'clock now. I used to work at a bank. I know how it goes. So some days 6, some days 6:30, right? There are certain societal norms that happen in every walk of life and every job that are really normal and nobody thinks anything of. But in this case, this ain't LeBron calling the extra practice. This ain't Giannis calling the extra practice, or Jokic, or Steph, or Ja Morant. This is Kyrie, Mr. Absent Irving, calling for practices. Mr. Telephone Man, calling for practice. No. I'm sorry. Chris, I can't abide by that. I can't. So
I get you. Again, Vince, you say all that, I hear you.
And whose responsibility is it to tell Kyrie Irving, hey, these dudes ain't doing this?
Okay, who responsibility is it? Answer that.
If it ain't Sean Marks, it's Steve Nash. Correct?
Okay. All right. That's
Pastor was bringing it home. Yeah. Pastor was bringing it home.
I hear you.
The doors of the church are open, Pastor Haynes. The doors of the church are open.
Okay. All right. That's what I'm saying. So why 3 assistant coaches? All right, whatever. Kyrie Irving. I reported that the Lakers and the Brooklyn Nets are in discussions about a potential trade. Kyrie Irving, Russell Westbrook. I put out details out there about what each team wants. They can go on Yahoo Sports, read it for themselves. When I reported, a net source wanted to relay to me that talks between them and the Lakers are right now at the preliminary stages, which I added to my report, and I actually tweeted that as well. Nowhere in my report did I say that a trade was imminent, but talks are ongoing, and those talks will continue, I'm told, into Summer League. Now, I know there's been pushback out there saying that nothing's happening or whatever. Well, whatever. Look, believe what you want to believe. I always stand by when I put it out in print, publish it. Always stand by what I said and what I reported.
Hey, Chris, we do this at Yahoo Sports. We put out reports before, and people have strongly denied it. Strongly denied. Only to see that same very trade happen 2 weeks later during Summer League. We don't have to say any names, do we, Chris?
No, it is what it is. It's par for the course, but I stand by my reporting. You stand by your reporting as well. So we do that. But so with Kyrie, what happens with him? Look, I think Kevin Durant's situation needs to get resolved first before the Nets tend to that. And as I reported, this thing can drag on as well. The Nets aren't going to be rushed into a deal. The Lakers, yes, they do. They do want to. They would rather get something done earlier, sooner than later. It's not up to them though right now. Let me just go up the hypothetical with Kyrie, Vince. What do you think ultimately happens with him as far as where he may land?
I had multiple people theorize to me before this all blew up. And Chris, and I'm gonna give you guys a little inside baseball here. Sometimes you're talking to a source, and a source tells you something so crazy and off the wall that you completely dismiss it. Completely dismiss it. That's insane. Whatever the case may be. I had an executive tell me, in like January of 2016. Kevin Durant going to the Warriors next year. You tripping. We at dinner, you take a source out or whatever, somebody you trust or whatever. Kevin Durant going to the Warriors next year. Man, please, that is insane. That's not happening. Blah, 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 blah. 6 months later, Kevin Durant's with the Warriors, right? So I say that to say, a few days before all this came out about Kevin Durant, get a text that I relayed to you. Mm-hmm. Kevin Durant wants to go to Phoenix. What? So I say that to say, when I preface all those things, that I would not be surprised if the Brooklyn Nets waived and stretched Kyrie Irving. He said...
You actually wrote about that. You wrote about it last week.
I did. And I'm not saying, and once again, I'm not saying it's going to happen. Because if you can find a trade partner for him, you do it. But even in the case of a Russell Westbrook, that's $11 more million added to your salary cap. And you're already in tax territory. So that could be an upwards of $30 more million because of the repeater tax penalties and the multipliers and everything else. That's a tough thing to take a worse player. Even though Russell Westbrook shows up, he's not a better player than Kyrie Irving at this point. You know what I mean? So would you rather take on a worse player for more money, or would you say, you know what, Kyrie, we don't have a palatable trade partner for you because you screwed up your own trade value? How about we just take this last year, pay you $12 million this year, $12 million the next year, $12 million the next year? That's no different than what the Brooklyn Nets did to make themselves a more palatable organization. They took on bad contracts, had draft picks attached to them. Those bad contracts ran off the books. They had cap space plus draft picks. This one, you really don't have the draft picks, but you're hoping to get them on the back end from the Kevin Durant trade. So that way you have a salary cap slotted space for 2 years while hopefully you're rebuilding and making yourself more attractive down the line, as opposed to bringing on someone that's going to cost you a lot of money. Just a theory.
Okay. I ultimately believe that if a deal does get done between the Lakers and Nets pertaining to Kyrie, Russ, I think most likely it would involve a third team to suffice for the Nets.
To facilitate some draft picks.
Yeah, I think the Nets still would want more, and rightfully so. So that's what the Kyrie situation. What else is on deck? Hold on, before we get to some other things, I got to ask you about this.
Okay. You're
a black man. You're a black man from Detroit, Vincent Goodwill.
Absolutely.
You just exposed right now. You just revealed and relayed that you used to work in the bank.
Mm-hmm.
What bank was this, Vince? National Bank or a local?
No, National Bank. It's okay. This name of this bank is on an arena, on a prominent arena somewhere
in Philadelphia. Okay, all right.
No, so not Philadelphia.
Not Philadelphia. Hold on. What name is after a bank? Cleveland.
It's a bank it's a arena we were at quite frequently over the last couple weeks.
Got you. Chase. Okay, Chase. Okay. All right. Now, I've always thought about, Vince, like, man, what would I do if I'm working at the bank, somebody comes in trying to rob the place? Like, I know you were taught protocol, you get protocol of what to do, the reaction, everything. And so off the bat, I'm just telling you, I work at a bank, they drawing guns. Here's the loot. Here's all the loot. And I know, so I want to take me, without saying too much, I don't know what you can say, but I'm interested. This is just for me. I'm fascinated by, like, what is the process and protocol when some armed bandits come in trying to get you for the loot? What do? They come to your desk, Vince, gives you a letter. What are you doing?
Well, for one, there's cameras everywhere. There's cameras in front of you. There's cameras behind you. So, like, think of like a Jumbotron in an arena where it can look straight down. And think of almost another one that's to your back. So everything that you're doing, your 6 o'clock and your 12 o'clock are both being monitored, right?
Okay.
What they tell you is to stay calm, for one.
Right.
And it ain't on me to be no hero. there are mechanisms inside of there that allow you to subtly alert who needs to be alerted while still doing your business, while still doing whatever it is. Because here's the nasty little secret. Every dollar that's in a bank is federally insured.
Okay. So
if they get away, if they like Heat, a movie with Al Pacino and Robert De Niro, even if they get away with some money, guess it'll be replaced. It's literally, unfortunately, just money, right?
Okay.
You follow the directions. You stay calm. Nah, it's hard for somebody to stay calm because I ain't never. You know what I mean?
That's easy to say. Stay calm. You got a 9mm.
Now, Chris, we all done growing up in the hood, so we done been around stuff where it been sketchy, right?
Yeah.
And you know how to handle yourself in those spots, like no quick movements, don't do nothing stupid. You know what I mean? Walk away with your life, that type of thing. So it's a fairly simple process. Now, for me, the advantage was I was in college. So I was in a college town. So I wasn't like I was in a downtown space that would be a Target or, you know what I mean, in the middle of a big city. I was in a college town. So most of the people that were coming into banks were like business owners or people who worked at the hospital around the corner or students, you know, classmates, so to speak, cute girls, that type of thing.
Yes.
You know, nice real icebreaker. If you know what I mean. You know what I mean?
If you want,
you know what I'm saying? So it ain't about the robbing of the bank. Chris, you just got to ask me what it's like to see $1 million. That's what you should be asking.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, let's get to that. All right. So what's the most money you've seen at once at the bank?
It's more than $1 million. I know that for sure.
Did you have to count? Like, is it
stacked
machine. Up?
Yeah, it's like a machine.
It's a machine?
You throw money in the machine and it counts it. You know, it counts it for you or whatever, and you stack it. You stack the hundreds in not a rubber band, but like a, you know, Velcro thing or whatever. Put it up, another whatever, and you know what I mean. And sooner or later, before you know it, you getting to $1 million, and you got money in your drawer. Like if you know somebody's coming, hey, such and such is coming. They got a big withdrawal coming. He's coming to your window. Then you got to go get very subtly. You got to go get a pretty big wad of money from the vault and put it in your, you know, put it below your drawer. Count it off to him. Hand it to him.
Hold on. Don't just bypass that. What does it look like in the vault? Because when I think of the vault, I think of Scrooge McDuck. when he goes to the vault, all that money just lying around, gold. Just what does the vault look like?
It looks like your closet. How about that? It looks like your closet. That's what the vault looks like.
That's not sexy, man. That don't sound sexy enough, man.
It's thick plate glass. It's like super, super thick and bulletproof and everything else. And it's a lot of money in there. There's no other way for me to say it, Chris. It's a lot of money in there. And you're counting it in the morning and you're counting it at night. It's a lot of bread.
Vince, on June 1st, it was my wife's birthday. And we were in San Francisco for the finals. I took her, I did this big trip, this big excursion for her, rented a party bus. But part of the trip, part of the day was I took her on a tour of Alcatraz. So for those of you who know Alcatraz, the jail, they used to host the most dangerous criminals. And it's right, you know, and on a little island outside of San Francisco. And so the reason I'm bringing this up, Vince, is that these prisoners can look outside the window, see downtown San Francisco. 4th of July, they see the fireworks. They hear everybody partying. They hear the women screaming. The women, Vince. It's torture. It's torture for these inmates. So they're already here on life, and they're looking at all this water, cold water. And they're hearing all this fun noise going on, and they can't do nothing about it. Vince, you're a poor, broke black man working at the bank, looking at all this money. Did you ever in your head just think of the movie Set It Off and be like, you know what, man, I'm not living like this no more? What? Man, tell me about the torture. Was there torture?
No, it wasn't. Look, for one, I ain't stupid. All right, like, look. All that could be right in front of you. I wasn't tempted not once. For who and for what? You know what I mean? Like, my drawer got to be counted up by the end of the night, and if $1 is missing, everybody's staying, right? You know what I mean? Like, I want to go home. Secondly, all the cameras is there and everything. Look, man, nobody got that level of sophistication. I worked in Ann Arbor, Michigan. The police would be there before you could have blinked. Shoot first, ask questions later. I could have been walking out with my bank uniform on, and they'd have got
Oh man,
somebody robbed it. Had to be you. Look at him. He's wearing a bank employee's uniform. The perfect cover. Shoot him. Yeah, that would have been it. Never once was tempted. And here's the other part. Whenever you have like really big transactions, you got to file all this paperwork to the government. Like if there's anything over like $10,000, if I remember was the number, any cash transaction, Chris, over $10,000, you literally have to alert the federal government why you just did that, even though it ain't your money.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine you trying to walk out of there with an extra 100 or two at the end of the night. Yeah, you come back the next day, your bank keys don't work. Now, I will tell you a funny story, Chris.
Go ahead.
I'll tell you a funny story before we get back to basketball. It was my best friend's birthday, and he was in Detroit, so I drove down to Detroit, spent the weekend. We were hanging and we were partying. I had my basketball Hirachis in the car because I was literally going from there back to campus, hanging out that night, gonna kick it, whatever, and was gonna go right back to campus. I had me and the college student that I had a pizza box in the car. Like, man, when I get home, I'm gonna go polish the rest of this pizza off, right? And my bank keys were in a duffel bag in the trunk.
Okay.
So someone saw the pizza box, smashed the window, got in the trunk, stole my shoes, stole my duffel bag. Little did he know, he had the keys to a national bank in the duffel bag that he could have just went in and went to town. He had no clue. It's because the keys are just keys. It's not labeled nothing. You know what the keys are, but don't nobody else do. He could have made out with more than just some punk ass Hirachis and some Pizza Hut. You know what I mean?
He had received his blessing, didn't know it, huh?
The Lord comes calling sometimes when you least expect him.
Man. God,
and what I have was some broken glass that I had to go, broken glass, bank keys, duffel bag, misuse. I'm still mad about that to this day, Chris, because I didn't buy another pair of black Hirachis because they hadn't come out again. I'm still mad.
I swear this is my last question on the bank.
Okay.
Money-wise. So what are some of the dollars that the banks have, the bills that the banks have that we don't see often out here in the streets?
You think it's like a $7 bill or something? No.
Like, is there a $1,000 bill? Is there
no. No, it's no $1,000
there's nothing, huh?
bill.
So the highest bill is what? 100?
Yeah, hundreds.
That's it, huh?
Yeah, hundreds. They got like $2 bills and stuff like that.
Yeah,
that's supposed
I got
to
a
be
few
rare,
of those.
You know what I mean? But that's just hundreds and 50s. Just a lot of them.
Golly.
A lot of them. Right. I tell you this story off wax, but go ahead. This story about this bank customer that every time I said his name, I laughed.
I found that fascinating. You at a bank window. Oh my goodness. You stay calm. No, okay. All right.
I worked in Ann Arbor, Michigan. It wasn't no bank robbers there, bro. Tell you that now.
Minnesota received Rudy Gobert in a trade. Let me see. For those who are hiding under a rock, Utah, in exchange for Gobert, received Malik Beasley, Patrick Beverley, Walker Kessler, Jared Vanderbilt, Leandro Barmaro, four first round picks, and four first round picks and a first round pick swap. Cat signed his Supermax extension. Well, agreed to it. As it constructed right now, does that put Minnesota top 5 in the West?
You would have to put them there if no other reason. Well, for one, somebody better tell the Ant-Man that this is his team and it's time for him to take over. I don't care what you do with Rudy Gobert or Karl Towns. Love them both. This is the Ant-Man's team, right?
And
now,
I saw Hustle for the first time a couple days ago.
Oh, how was it?
Oh, you haven't seen it yet, huh?
I haven't seen it yet. Was it good?
And no, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. And is Ant is a character, bro. He was a natural in that movie, in that role. He did a good job. But go ahead.
I think Rudy Gobert took a lot of Rudy Gobert for all of his deficiencies or for his glaring deficiencies. Oh, he can't post up or whatever. Can't play this back to the basket. He wants the ball, but he can't do anything with it. Yeah, all right, whatever. And not to go analytic nerd on you, but he's one of the most 5 impactful players in the game. Mm-hmm. With what he does, especially on defense. And the fact of the case was in Utah, they didn't have a defender around him that could actually help him. So he was always covering what everybody else was doing. Now you put him on Minnesota, you slide Cat to the 4, you paid Cat the day before. So now he feels good, right? He feels good about getting a long extension. You know, he's not going to be worried about his place on the team, place in the franchise or whatever. Then you go trade for Rudy Gobert, who basically moves you to 4. Your defense is a much, much better place than it was before, than what we saw in the first round of the playoffs. Tim Connolly comes in, makes a big move, because this is what Tim Connolly likes to do. He puts his stamp on it. Yeah, I got questions about their depth. I got questions about if D'Angelo Russell was going to be there. But if you added one of the most 5 impactful players in the game, yeah. And I'll say this to you, and I wonder about this. Golden State was a great team that won this year, right? But I don't think that scared anybody. Big picture. It was like, okay, let's go and make moves and see if we can capture some magic and see if we can overtake them, or see if there's a spot at the top of the West that nobody's going to, quote unquote, occupy, or whatever the case may be. You know what I mean? That type of thing. Mm-hmm. I'll compare it to when LeBron took Cleveland to the finals the first time in 2007. And he shocked the world, and it was just LeBron and a bunch of dudes, right? Mm-hmm. You know what happened that next month? Boston went and got Kevin Garnett and Ray Allen, because they said, oh, there's a hole at the top of the vortex. We can go fill it. Even though you just saw a 22-year-old LeBron do what he did. Even though you just saw Golden State do what they did, you're looking at teams, the Clippers loading up, Minnesota's loading up, all loading up to make a run. A, that's parity, but B, it shows we're not afraid of anybody at the top of either conference. And I think that's good for the league.
For sure. And so the trickle-down effect is, for Utah, what's going to happen with Donovan Mitchell now? So you talk to people over there with the Utah Jazz, they say, hey, they're keeping Donovan, they're building around him. But you talk to people outside of Utah Jazz, they're not so sold on that line of thinking. They do believe at some point Donovan Mitchell will be available. One team that I know that is monitoring Donovan Mitchell is the Miami Heat. So we'll see how that thing plays out. Danny Ainge, similar to Tim Connolly, wastes no time getting in there and putting his stamp on the team. And this is what he does. He tears things down and rebuilds it back up to match his own vision of what that personnel should look like.
I have a hard time believing that Danny Ainge will make a deal with Pat Riley.
Well, I think it helps nowadays. Yeah, I think, yes, I hear you, but he's not in the East anymore. He's in the West.
Yeah.
So I think that helps right there.
Apparently, you've never met old people before. They're quite ornery as they get older. They don't let go of stuff. Have you seen today's politics, Chris Haynes? A bunch of old dudes who not letting go of old ideas. The same applies to basketball executives.
These guys, they'll probably try to make them pay a little bit more in doing the deal, like adding a little bit something, more to make them suffer. But I still look. You got to be open. You got to be open. You got to be open to any and everything out there. I want to ask you about, look, so let me just run through. I'm not going to touch on all these moves. Devin Booker got his super max. Ja Morant signed his designated max extension. Joker, his max. Levine. These are all no-brainers. We knew all this going in. James Harden still negotiating right now with the Philadelphia 76ers. He'll reach the term, so there's really no hoopla, no drama there. John Wall going to the Clippers. Clippers are having a really good offseason.
I need to see what John Wall looks like.
Hey, John Wall can still play. John Wall can still play, man.
I don't think it's about a lack of. I don't think it's not about him not being able to play. But when you go without playing basketball for an entire year, that's tough for me. And even though John Wall has been noted, remember John Wall's the fastest player in the league and stuff like that. He's played the slowest brand of basketball. So I'm wondering, as you're approaching the age and everything else. I would like to know how that works, especially because he's not going to have the ball in his hands as much with Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. And Paul George is being a playmaker. Kawhi Leonard, is a high usage player. I'm very curious to see how he works as that third wheel. Like, I wonder if Reggie Jackson is a better fit with those two guys, even though Wall is probably a better player. But if John Wall is John Wall again, Chris, me and you will be in LA in June. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind. I do think.
Of course, you wouldn't mind being in LA, Chris.
I saw on social media when I reported the buyout, when he got the buyout in Houston, and then word got out that he was leaning towards the Lakers. I started seeing people was like, "Well, who's going to start?" Man, that is a no-brainer, man. Come on. I get what you saying, Vince. You think Reggie may be a better fit with that start lineup. Y'all forgot. Y'all must have forgot. John Wall can play. I'm telling you, man, I understand that year off. John Wall can play. I think the Clippers, if these guys are healthy, because they got a lot of guys who are injury prone, mainly their big three. So the health has to be on their side. But I think if it is, I think they'll be fine. I kind of want to end it. Let me see. Let me get two more topics in here real quick, Vince. Before I ask about your summer league, what you're expecting in summer league, that's going to be the last thing. But before that, Jalen Brunson going over to the New York Knicks. There are people who speculate, I don't know if it will be an official complaint filed, but speculate that there could be a complaint of tampering that the league could and should investigate. I think if they do this, look, man, this stuff go like, it's easy to call out Jalen Brunson. It's easy to call out this situation because I guess the way it was reported on days before.
Months before.
Yeah, I mean.
I got you, Chris. I got you, Chris.
Go ahead, man. I'm trying to be delicate here, but go ahead.
No, you got Chris. We ain't gotta be delicate. I got the perfect analogy. For you. Me and Chris, we ain't the same age, but we in the same age grouping. There was a song my freshman year of high school, a group called Escape. They had a song called My Little Secret, right?
Yep.
And the bridge goes, everybody cheats. You gotta know when, you gotta know how, you gotta know where and why. That's kind of the NBA. Everybody tampers. You just kind of got to know when, where, how, and why, and not be so damn transparent when you do it. That's all. All these deals ain't being come to at 6:01 on, June 30th and everything else. You know about these things. The problem is, it's the Knicks. The Knicks are always being viewed as a sloppy organization. You know what I mean?
And that's funny, and that's ironic too, because they have different personnel every 3 or 4 years, and yet still have the same reputation.
Well, I think the reputation was slightly different, for a few years. And nothing against Leon Rose, but if you can't come out and actually talk to the public, if you can't come out and talk to your customers, talk to the media, that to me that's not a sign of a well-run professional organization, right? It's just not. And Leon Rose comes from the agent world, CAA, made all those deals and everything else. But you've got to project some level of presence. You know what I mean? You've got to be able to speak publicly. Hey, it ain't the easiest thing to do, but it's part of the job.
For sure.
You know what I mean? So you can do everything behind the scenes, but it's part of the job. And I don't, you know what I mean? You're supposed to project a certain level of leadership in that way, in professionalism. And I think that's a little bit lacking there, but I understand your larger point. I mean, you shouldn't have to hire, like, this sounds like college. I'm going to go hire Rick Brunson so he can get my son. This sounds like Jake Shuttlesworth and Jesus Shuttlesworth. You know what I mean? Yeah. And he got game. And Jalen Brunson's a good player. But now, unfortunately, because Leon Rose isn't coming out to the public and saying, hey, this guy's a really good piece, not the savior, right? You're going to lead people to believe that he's going to be the savior when he's not. He's not that, say he's not that level of talent, but you shouldn't put those expectations on him. But because you don't speak, you don't go out and set the course. These are the expectations that are going to be, that people are going to assume to be the case, that inevitably someone's going to fall short of, especially in New York City, because you've done so much to get him. You hired his daddy. You paid what you paid over what Dallas was offering. You've been courting him for months. All this says, man, this is like a Kevin Durant type of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And because nobody says anything, where do you go?
I get Vince. So on the father point, like, so let's Rick Brunson, Jalen Brunson's dad, played for Tibbs. He was he was assistant coach in Chicago. Assistant coach with Tibbs at the Timberwolves.
Yep.
So they have a really great relationship. So it's like, it's not beyond the pale to think that he would have got hired anyway, even if his son wasn't up for free agency. So, but it definitely did help them, I believe, and be able to get the father over there. But just look at the history, and the history will tell you that Rick follows Tibbs.
Right.
So I don't, I don't think they were messy in that.
It's peculiar timing.
It is peculiar, for sure. No doubt about that. But tampering, man, like, I'm not a fan of these investigations because you can investigate everybody. You know what I'm saying? You can investigate nobody. It goes on with every team. And I think that's what I'll kind of leave it at that. Summer League, Vince, who are you looking forward to? Before you answer, I'll tell you who I'm looking forward to seeing. It was, Holmgren, like, he looked good. He looked good playing. I don't even know who they played, but I know it was, he went against Taco Fall.
Yeah,
he Utah absolutely did his thing. This is in the Utah Summer League that they have going on, and he looks really good. I know it's one Summer League game, but he looks really good. But I want to see Jabari Smith Jr. with the Houston Rockets. This is a guy who thought he was going number one. Went to Houston, didn't even work out for Houston. Didn't even think he was dropping to number 3. And so I talked to him, I interviewed him. That's a story. You can find it on Yahoo Sports. It was the day before the draft.
Yeah.
The day before the draft.
Yeah.
He was saying, like, he'll be very surprised if he didn't go number 1. And, and he talks about having a chip on his shoulder. So I really want to see what that chip is like now. And so another guy I want to see live, Keegan Murray from the Kings pick. They picked him at number 4. He's looking good so far in the California Summer League they had. I'm not a fan of all these different summer leagues before the Vegas Summer League, but oh well. So those are kind of guys I'm looking at. Who else? Anybody else that stands out to me? I want to see. That's pretty much it. Who's on your radar?
I do want to see. I want to see Ben Mathurin.
Okay.
I want to see Ben Mathurin because he gives me Ant-Man vibes. You know what I mean? I like his confidence. People were saying, "Oh, you shouldn't say that." What he said about LeBron James and everything else. I don't care about that. Like, shoot your shot. Like, it's not the most reverent thing to do, but you put the bullet, you put the target on your back, and not that LeBron is gonna come out there and put on a jersey. I think he's out there coaching his son's teams right now, but I want to see what you do. I want to see Shaedon Sharpe because nobody's seen him play, right? We saw him practice. We heard of him practicing. With Kentucky.
For sure. He's one. I'll be sitting watching that game. Yeah.
So those are guys that I want to see play. Obviously Jaden Ivey. I want to see how he does. But those guys. But Chet, I've been on record. I thought Chet was number 1 player in the draft. I was not a believer. I don't know about you. Once again, inside basketball stuff here.
Mm-hmm.
During the season, looking at chat, I'm like, man, I don't know if this dude, I don't know if he it, right? Talked to a couple people. They literally set me straight. They said, this kid is real. I mean, I'm like, how real are we talking about here? Kevin Durant, Kevin Garnett, real. That's what type of pro he gonna be. If things break right, he got all the things you need. After that, I stand corrected, right? I stand corrected on him. Now, there's another player that was the top pick in the draft that I'm not backing down off of. Won't say his name, but that's another top pick. I'm like, nah, y'all stay over there. But I want to see Chet play. I want to see that. I want front row for that.
All right. Well, we'll see. We'll all, me and Vince, will be in summer league together. We might. Let me see. Yeah, we might have to do a pod from there or something. We'll figure it out. But we'll be there in Vegas. And that's going to conclude this episode of the Post Up with Chris Haynes podcast. Hope you guys enjoy 4th of July. I hope you guys are safe. I saw some videos out there where people were setting their houses on fire with these fireworks. So get some professionals who know how to light them up right.
Or unfortunate videos, Chris, of stuff that we got to see damn near every day that's becoming desensitized to us.
Yes,
stupid stuff going on.
I hear you, brother. Speaking to the choir. I hear you, brother. So everybody, hope you enjoy your day. Enjoy the rest of your week. Y'all take care. My brother Vincent Goodwill here on the Posted Up with Chris Haynes podcast here on Yahoo Sports. Enjoy. Be safe. Peace.